Hello, everyone. My name is meteorologist Hutch Johnson. We have a severe weather system working its way out of the high country of the Rockies, out of Montana and into the Dakotas, out of Wyoming and into parts of South Dakota and the Black Hills. This extends all the way down to the southern border of Colorado, and these storms are moving eastward. Now, the main threat tonight is going to be large hail and damaging straight line winds. We're going to go in and analyze these storms, look at what's going on. We're going to take a view from some cameras as well. My name is meteorologist Hutch Johnson, and if you like what you see here, please throw a like on the video, and I would love to have you punch the subscribe button down below to be notified when I am going live, or if I have content for you, you can click the little bell next to the subscribe button as well. Let's get right to the radar here as we zoom in just a little bit closer. We'll go from north to south as we see a line of storms basically just crossing into North Dakota from Glendive, Montana. Now, these have a little bit of a northerly trajectory to these storms. We could see the latest warning as they're moving through areas like Beach, North Dakota, and off to the east of a town called Webo, Montana. Now, as we take a look at the warning on this, ping pong ball sized hail is a possibility with this particular storm, and it's moving north at about 25 miles per hour. Some 60 mile per hour gusts will also be a possibility with this storm. We're taking a look at the closest radar right now. You can see moving through areas like Beach and Sentinel Butte. Now, there's a pink core up here showing the largest hail size right here. So I circle it with my pencil. That system, again, all over pretty rural portions of western North Dakota. Thank you so much for chiming in with where you're watching from. If you have a question, I'd love to go ahead and do my very best to answer that as well. Notice our temperatures out here in the 70s in the Northland, and we do have some strong storms working their way into the Black Hills right now near Belle Fourche. So let's take a look at what's going on. What are we seeing? Severe storms punching into Spearfish, Sturgis right now. These storms, let's get a look at the movement on them. 1¼ inch diameter hail. They are moving east. These ones are moving east at 45 miles per hour, so some significant movement with these. Look at the pink on the radar display here. We even see some blue as we look in, and Vail as we see this is just north of Sturgis. It's moved out of Belle Fourche. Let's take a look at what we have with regards to visibility, but first let's take another look at some spin in the storms. Rotation is not our biggest concern here, and we're looking at a radar that is based basically right out of the Rapid City area. Now, what that means is we're seeing pretty unidirectional winds straight out of the storm, but right here we have some greens right next to some reds here just to the south and east of Vail. So there could be a little bit of weak rotation with this, but likely what we're looking at is an outflow or a gust front with this particular storm. Extremely strong straight line winds are possible. Let's go ahead and look at some of these velocities, shall we, at elevation. Let's go ahead and pop a look at what these are showing us. And as we look in here, we're looking at 50 to 60 mile per hour winds. Again, to get a good estimate of these wind speeds, we'd have to be looking directly into the speed of the wind like we are here. Also note that there's some elevated terrain here. I did see a 60 pop up here. So the radar is measuring some winds upwards of 60 miles per hour with regards to these storms as well. Thank you for chiming in here. Let me go ahead and translate. Since my Spanish is not so very good, I'll go ahead and translate what the question is and see if there's something I'm missing with regards to your question. Who can know the north coast of the United States? Severe hail, tornado potential, severe storms, weather, hail, and strong tornadoes. Who can know? Well, the best answer that I can give you to that, Jay, is that we have a look with the Doppler radar here, and we can look inside which storms are creating spin and which ones are not. So there's a pretty stout line with possibly some very strong, or likely some very strong winds right here moving out of the northern edge of the Black Hills in northern and western parts of South Dakota. And there is a little area here that's showing some signs of what we call gate-to-gate rotation. That's right in this neck of the woods here. Let me go ahead and take a look at the storm relative. We can subtract the motion of the storm, and we still see in the same area that there is some shear in this particular storm. It's just off to the south and to the east of Vail. Here's a look at where that is. It's 6 miles to the south and east of Vail. There is no tornado warning with this particular storm. This just means that at cloud level, the Doppler radar is picking up some rotation within this particular storm. But we have some eyes, and Hutch has them programmed here for you. Let's go to the South Dakota Department of Transportation. We're going to take a peek at a couple of these cameras that are in this area. And as we zoom in on that Sturgis region right now, we're going to look into the storm with regards to what some of these traffic cameras are seeing, shall we? Here we go. Oh my, look at that. We got some dark clouds out there and certainly some darkening skies as we look in on the north side of Sturgis here from this particular camera. And there is a dark view, but that is a mountain edge there in the Black Hills. If you've been on, it looks like, well, that's not too far from Highway 83 there, South Dakota 79. That looks like we got some hail on the road surface there. So this is definitely producing some hail in and around the Sturgis area. So a very stout thunderstorm there. That's a look from the Sturgis camera. Those storms are surging just south of Sturgis. So let's check out this camera view right here. Oh, yes, you can see the edge of the Black Hills there and some dark and ominous clouds working their way through. When we look in other directions, we don't have as good or as clear of a view of that particular storm. Here's what it looks like north of Buffalo Chip. Oh, that's the one we already looked at. Pardon me. Let's look right in that Sturgis one here. Okay, so we're looking obviously at the I-90 corridor here, since it's got the interstate there making its way through. Heavy rain. I'm not seeing evidence of significant hail that has hit that particular spot yet. Here we go. Let's take a look at what we got going on here. This is a Doppler radar report of some hail. Let me go ahead and switch back to the radar here so you can see what I'm looking at and showing you. Again, the radar showing us some basically the Doppler radar from the National Weather Service will estimate hail size. These can be skewed quite a bit by various things. Plus, it's picking up reflectivities up at cloud level, and estimating what makes its way down to the ground is a little bit challenging. But 2¼ inch diameter hail, a possibility. And the Doppler radar is predicting a 100% chance of hail, but the severe chance of severe size hail of 1 inch in diameter or greater, 1 inch is the size of a quarter, is at 70%. So a very stout and strong thunderstorm there, capable of some hail working its way through. So here's a look back at the normal radar view that you're typically used to seeing. A lot of pink on this. We do definitely have some hail that's moved through Vail. We have some hail that's sliding here. This one has a little bit of a hook shape to it right there, where we see the little bite taken out of the storm by Hutch's hand here. That is an area that sometimes can indicate that we do have an area of the storm that is more prone to some circulation. So let's see if we switch over to velocity, if this area, if you peel your eyes right on this area, if we're seeing any spin or what we would call gate-to-gate motion. I do not see that. So we see all green. That means a nice unidirectional flow. All of the wind is blowing toward the radar there. So that's a good sign as far as spin goes with that particular storm. So that one not showing too many signs of concern there with regards to spin. But right here, just off to the east of Vail, I continue to see an area where we do have, maybe it's along a gust front here, and every once in a while we can have some brief spin ups in those areas. So that's one area that Hutch would be watching out for with regards to these particular storms. Thanks so much, Deb, for joining on. What's up with you as well? Nancy, Alvarado, Minnesota. These are a long ways from the Red River Valley and Alvarado at this particular time, but by tomorrow you may see some storms as well. Now, here's a look at some actual storm reports. So let me turn this reflectivity back on here, and what you are going to notice with regards to these are some little digits here. So right up here, you see a 60. See that 60? It's a little hard for you to read. Right there it is. That little blue tag says 60. This is a magnitude 69 mile per hour wind gust was measured on a mesonet, or a small network of instruments out there in Butte County, 7 miles west-southwest of Hoover, South Dakota. That's a pretty strong gust of wind. Now, gusts of winds over 60 miles per hour can break pretty significant tree branches and cause them to fall on things like power lines or your home. So this storm has the capability of some very strong winds. Another thing that we meteorologists are looking for here, something we call a bowing shape. And you see this backward C I just drew on here? This backward C is called a bow echo. So it's kind of bowing out in the direction that the gusty winds that are flowing out of this thunderstorm are pushing. So what this means is these gusty straight line winds are going to be blasting out of this storm. I'm going to change my color here. We'll put red on the backside. In this general direction that the bow is pushing. So the winds will be coming out of the west-northwest as these storms blow through. Along this gust front, where we have what we call the apex of it right here. That is most often the area we would have the most likely area where we may see some spin-ups on the leading edge. These are not usually long-lived type tornadoes. They're usually short-lived tornadoes, but I'll be watching for them for you as these storms work their way off to the east. Now, let's turn our attention just a bit farther south as these storms are working their way out of Wyoming and into parts of Nebraska as well. As we go in, we do not have any severe thunderstorm warnings south of Rapid City in eastern parts of Nebraska, but as we look at Alliance, we have a strong thunderstorm here. There's a special weather statement from the National Weather Service. Thank you, Jay. Estados Unidos, thank you very much for joining me on the broadcast here. Wind gusts of 50 to 55 mile per hour winds are likely with this storm. That's just below severe criteria. 58 miles per hour is deemed to be severe by meteorologists. 58. This one's capable of 55 mile per hour gusts. Now, if we look at the loop, you can see the general movement of these storms, generally in a northeasterly fashion. So you see the white line pointing up to the north and east. That gives us an idea of where it's heading. So if you're outside of Alliance in rural parts of western Nebraska right now, not far from you in Ogallala, that's always fun to say, just to the north and east of you, let's measure that. These line of storms are making their way through that area. See if I can measure that. Right there. Okay. There we go. So as the crow flies, or in a straight line here, it's about 49 miles to the northwest of Ogallala there on the I-80 corridor. Okay, now as we take a look a little farther south, we do notice a couple of thunderstorm warnings in Hutch's, old high school turf. Eastern Colorado. Check this out. We have a severe thunderstorm anchoring out toward Otis. And this is out near Yuma, Colorado. 1 inch diameter hail. And see, it says tornado possible. Let's get on this for you folks out there in northeast Colorado. Let's look at the text so we can get an idea of what the National Weather Service says. Funnel clouds. This one has a history of producing funnel clouds and nickel-sized hail. And that's why they say the tornado possible tag on this particular storm. It's moving or is located 14 miles to the southeast of Akron, and we're going to get a little bit better look at that with the latest view from the radar here. So remain alert for a tornado. If one does form, get away from it. It's not a good situation. Let's take a look at the latest radar scans from the radar out there in northeast parts of Colorado out there at the DIA area. Let's check this out. This has a bowing segment as well. Do you see that? That is a bow echo, as we just talked about moments ago. Let's take a look at that bow echo, and let's take a look also at the, let me go ahead and do this. So here's that bowing shape. This means very gusty straight line winds are going to be likely from this storm from the west-northwest moving out of the high terrain into the eastern plains of Colorado. So we zoom in a little bit closer. Where is the spin with this one? Well, it looks like to me it's right outside of the Akron area as we go moving in towards Otis. If you're in Otis, you're seeing very dark clouds making their way towards you right now. Let's take a look at the base velocity from this storm. Now, we see some very bright red colors here next to some greenish colors. This is outflow from the storm. It lines up nicely with the apex of that bow echo. This is what we would call a gust front blasting out. It's sometimes associated with what we would call a rear flank downdraft blowing out of the storm right here. So this is some very gusty winds pouring out of the storm. Now, this radar view is from up at the cloud level. It doesn't always mean that this is what's blowing at ground level as we look at 6:23 Central Daylight Time. If you're in the Mountain Time Zone, this is 5:23. If you're in Colorado, you're in the Mountain Time Zone, right? So 5:23. 5:23 is the time of this scan, and there is some pretty stout thunderstorm winds here. How strong are those winds? Check this out. This is looking like 50 to 60 mile per hour gusts are associated with this part of the cell. Again, that's off the ground. This doesn't mean that that's what's happening on the ground in your area. Prepare for gusty straight line winds. Now, we are seeing some areas where we do have some greens next to the red. I'm going to pull out the storm motion and look at something what we call storm relative velocity. And here we go. You've got your gust front right here, and right here along this boundary of this outflow, you see this reds next to greens. This is what we have as circulation. The green is motion toward the radar, the red's motion outbound, away from the radar. That's all a radar can measure, by the way, is wind blowing away from it or towards it. So Doppler radar gives us that valuable information in storms, which ones might be spinning and which ones may be just producing straight line winds. So this storm is capable of producing a tornado. It has produced funnel clouds. So again, as it makes its way off to the east-northeast, and it's moving at about 40 miles per hour, you want to seek shelter from that puppy as it blasts its way through across the northern plains and the eastern plains of Colorado. Okay, so that's heading towards Yuma. That's heading out towards Otis right now. The gustiest part of this storm is likely right here, where that thing is bowing out most. It's bending. Now, let's take a look at this other severe thunderstorm warning. This one here, as I zoom in, I'm not seeing any metropolis communities here. This is all rural portions north of Interstate 70 there, north of Genoa, north of Flagler out there on I-70. Now, as you take a look at this particular storm, as we loop it, is moving east. We'll get it's very slowly moving. Do you see these areas here? They're just kind of sitting there. So that's pretty slow movement. Let's see what the Weather Service's radar is determining with regards to the speed. Expectation for 1-inch hail and gusts to around 60 miles per hour. It's moving east at 40 miles per hour, according to this update from the National Weather Service. It looks like to Hutch, it's a little bit slower movement than that because I think it's still forming in these areas. Sometimes thunderstorms can kind of just sit there for a while as they have the lift focused in this area, and it just keeps popping and continuing to produce very heavy precipitation in that one particular area. That looks like what's going on to me. How long has it been sitting there? Let's analyze that together. I'm going to go back 30 frames. This will be a little more than an hour here as we take a look at that for you and let that load up. And hit play button here. Give me one moment and we will take a look at this. Okay, so you can see it is moving just a little bit. The time starts at 5:20 to 6:20. So that's 1 hour's worth of data. The storm just fired up right there. Let's see how far it moved in 1 hour. Yeah, it formed right here, moved this far. It's only, this hail core is only moving at about 15 to 20 miles per hour. That's it. It's not moving at 40 miles per hour. This is a 15 to 20 mile per hour mover, okay? Let's see if this one's showing some signs of spin before we move on to another area of thunderstorms a little farther down to the south. Here's a look at the reflectivity. We can see the hail cores with it. Certainly is capable of producing some sizable hail. Let's look at just the base velocity right now, and I am seeing some brighter reds, which would indicate some very strong winds right here, where you see the brightest of the reds. The brighter the red is, the stronger the wind velocity that's being measured by the Doppler radar. And we can see that some of that is exceeding 40 miles per hour. And this is way up high in the storm because it's a long ways from radar sites. And this radar site here, by the way, just outside of Watkins, this would be out by the DIA area out there, east of Aurora, Colorado. Hutch's place of graduating from high school. That's right. Okay, we have another storm out here that's showing some different changes in wind direction and velocity as well. Let's look and take the storm's movement into account. And yes, we see some reds still next to greens right here. So there is some weak spin in the storm that just went away on the latest scan. So the main threat, hail. Gusty straight line winds, as we showed you here just moments ago, with those particular storms sliding their way through. Let's continue our trek southward here. These storms are just off to the east-southeast of you in Colorado Springs. Oh no, they're heading right into Lamar, Granada out there, as well as Wiley and Hasty. These storms pretty strong. We take a look at the pink cores here right over the hand. That's where there's one hail cell, another one by Hasty, another one by Wiley here. And again, there's a couple of different warnings that are kind of overlapping each other. My guess is these storms have some different movements and they're kind of converging. Let's take a look at what the radar loop shows. Oh boy, this whole cluster of storms, this one near the Wiley area has been sitting up here spinning. It's moving out over Wiley. Another one formed on its heels right here and is moving into the area of Hasty again, just exited by the other one. Hutch thinks this area is going to have some inordinate heavy amounts of rainfall from this storm. Flash flooding could possibly be a problem here because we've had these storms moving over areas where other storms left. So a heavy thunderstorm can quickly produce 1 or 2 inches of rainfall or more per hour. And then another one's moving in on top of it. Let's look at our our storm total precip estimates from this. And you can see here, it's right on the edge of the radar screen. So see this line that's ending right here? It's just on the edge of the available Doppler radar there from the National Weather Service. Let's get to a closer radar here. Let me try that. That should get me some more clear data on this particular storm. There we go. Okay, so we're expecting some 1-inch hail. Here's a look at the rainfall estimates. Check these out where we're looking into these areas of yellow. There's some spots where the radar is estimating 2 to 3 inches of rainfall from this particular thunderstorm cell in eastern Colorado. This is southeastern Colorado, a little bit south and east of the Colorado Springs area. These storms capable of very heavy rain, and there's more on the way. So we just showed you this is 2.1 inches of rain estimated in this spot, and look at what's heading in that general direction. Another line of storms. So we do have some storms that are going to be training in this area. There's another one down here south of Los Animas, and that is going to be working in that general direction too. This storm here has the largest hail. Do you see the little 2 with the circle on it? These other storms, 1 to 2 inch diameter hail. This one, 2 to 3 inch diameter hail. Let's go ahead and click on it and take a look. This is moving right into Hasty right now. If you're in Hasty, prepare for some significantly large hail knockers. Those could give you a little bit of a hail headache fairly quickly. 100% probability of severe hail is 90% chance of severe hail. 2.25 inches in diameter possible from those storms. There is a little bit of a mesoscale type of a circulation with the storm as well. That storm capable of some sizable hail. That is about the southern extent of these storms as we look down towards Trinidad and the southern reaches of Colorado. Not as much activity going on there. There's that Boeing line segment moving through northeast Colorado, east of Fort Morgan. This is on the I-70 corridor there as we look down to the south. And that system is going to continue its trek out to the east of Denver on I-70 and then on I-76. Let's take a look up there. We got a couple of cells making their way through those areas as well. Warnings continue. They are all severe thunderstorm warnings at the latest look here. That is the case. We do have a severe thunderstorm warning in the western reaches of North Dakota. Let's go right to this one. It says considerable damage, 70-mile-an-hour winds, and golf ball size hail possible from this particular cell right here. So again, western parts of North Dakota, these are some significant hailers out here. Wow, there was some blue just north of beach there. Watch it. Right there, that blue, that was some very significant hail with that. Notice the increased amount of lightning with this particular cell here that's capable. A lot of times severe thunderstorms are able to produce a little bit more in the way of lightning as well. This storm here, let's take a look at it. The National Weather Service says that there is 70-mile-per-hour wind threat from that particular storm. So let's go ahead and get some measurements for you. Unfortunately, this is a long, long ways from radar sites out here, but let's take a look at the closest radar site that we have, and that one looks to be offline. So that radar is not going to be much help to Hutch here. Let's see if I can pop up the radars. Let's see if Bowman is on. This is a Bowman radar site. This is operated by the state of North Dakota. Again, the reflectivities are quite a ways away from this. I believe it's a 5-centimeter Doppler radar down there. It's not quite, doesn't have quite the range as some of the National Weather Service radars do, but we can certainly see that north of beach is the stronger cell. So now let's take a look at the radar out here in Glasgow, see what it's showing us. Yeah, that one's probably the best one. So here we go. We've got this cell here capable of some very sizable hail. I really cannot measure the wind speeds directly on this particular storm to get an estimate because the wind speeds it's going to be producing with its motion to the north will have the outflow going to the north, which likely means that's going to be across the beam of the radar. So what we can tell you is gusty Considerable straight line winds of upwards of 70 miles per hour will be possible from this particular storm as it works its way through. I am seeing that we did get a hail report of 1.2 inches in diameter here. Let's take you to the North Dakota Department of Transportation cameras and see if we can get a look at this puppy out there in the western reaches of North Dakota. As we look out there, not far from Medora, this is north of that area, and we're talking about north of Sentinel Butte as well as Beach. So let's go up to this camera right here and see if there's anything that we can pick or detect from this. A lot of these cameras do more of a job of looking at the road surface here in North Dakota, since blizzards and snow tend to be more of an issue for some areas. Again, we're looking at Sentinel Butte kind of north here, and there just aren't a lot of cameras out there. Let's look at this one. Okay, so we got very heavy rain showing up here. Not seeing any hail on the roadside there. And again, well, that one there is a little on the blurry side. That's at the Hump Dam area, just through the Sentinel Butte. If we look in Medora, I think we looked at this. Boy, look at that beautiful terrain out there in western North Dakota. If you've never, ever been to Medora, it's a great place to go check out. They have a musical out there. So if you're looking for a fun place to go visit Medora in western North Dakota at the Theodore Roosevelt National Park out there. Beautiful scenery. Tonight, though, hailstorms and thunderstorms working their way through. They're moving in the general direction of Watford City. Let's see if we can see anything from this particular camera at Grassy Butte. I'm not seeing, there are some darkening skies as we look off in that general direction. Now let's look from the view up just a little bit farther north towards Watford City. These storms would be moving in the general direction. This is the oil patch in North Dakota where they have the fracking wells out there in western North Dakota. So not seeing a lot of proof of performance from these storms out here on those cameras. Let's see if Baker, Montana has some. I'm going to go out to my friends in Montana and look at a couple of cameras there for you, and then I'll wrap up this cut-in or this update for you. Again, near Baker and points just north, there's a pretty healthy storm. You see this camera right here might have a good view of it. Oh my goodness. Looks like we have a few dark skies out there over the plains of eastern Montana. Look how green things are from the recent rain showers. You do have some scary looking clouds. I like to call those SLCs. We got an SLC hanging down below that cloud right there in Ash Creek, Montana. Let's take another look at another camera in that area. Ash Creek, that camera there doesn't look like it's providing much for Hutch here. So I'm going to dive out of that one, look at this one just a little farther to the south. There's also storms south of Baker, maybe not as big or as stout. Let me see. Oh my goodness, look at these storm clouds out here in the big sky country of Montana. Oh, yeah. Oh, hail on the ground there. Maybe a look at some of that. So maybe there was a hailstorm make its way through that particular neck of the woods in eastern Montana. So this is a look at the aerial coverage of the storms. Let's get you into the Spearfish area north of Rapid City. Still experiencing the potential for 1¼ inch diameter hail from this storm that we analyzed just a minute ago. Let's go back to the radar here. This is near Vail. That Vail storm has moved out. There's another one moving in on its heels. This one is basically already has a report of a 1.5 inch diameter hail stone. Let's go to that report and see what it says. 1.5 inch, 3 miles west of Vail by a trained spotter was the report there. So these storms rumbling through parts of the high plains outside of the Black Hills in South Dakota and are going to be moving into the Missouri River Valley a little bit later. These are strong thunderstorms with a huge wind potential. We already have some wind gust measurements here of 60 miles per hour, numerous measurements there. And it does look like we do have some hail that has been reported with these storms as well. All the way down into Colorado, we have severe storms, mainly in the eastern plains, east of the Denver metro area along the I-70 corridor, south of I-76. You see a couple of severe storms there. Elsewhere nationwide, we do have a couple of Texas storms that have sprung south of Fort Stockton, not far from Alpine. We'll take you down there. This is not in a watch area. It's just some that have festered up either along the dry line or the heat of the day out there. Let's check it out. Now, this storm cell here is capable of 2-inch diameter hail. It looks like it's kind of slowly meandering its way towards Marathon as we take a look at the National Weather Service's latest measurement. A southeast movement. 20 miles per hour heading in that general direction. Half dollar sized hail and 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts from this puppy as it moves towards Marathon. So again, that 20-mile-per-hour motion. Let me see if I can analyze that a little better for you. Okay, let's go with that. And let's go with that. Here is a look at, it looks like it's about 45 minutes or so away from you folks in Marathon as we analyze the movement of that cell. That is a pretty healthy thunderstorm cell down in Texas, deep down in the south. And that's a look at what's going on with our weather across the nation today and our risk of severe weather. By the way, tomorrow there is a risk of severe weather that will work its way into portions of the central plains and again down into the southern plains. The greatest risk for severe weather tomorrow will take place down south. So Hutch will go ahead and pull that up for you here right quick as I pull off some of these other products off of the screen here for you. So we'll go ahead and turn off the current active watches and warnings, turn off all these radar dots, and let's look at our risk of severe weather for your day on Thursday. Now, the storms we have rolling out of Montana and the Northland are not expected to be severe, but down in parts of southeast Colorado where we have storms tonight, down through Oklahoma and Texas, there is a risk of some severe weather there. Looks like we do have a tornado report that happened. I can tell you that was out down south of Iowa in well, it looks like the parish was Cameron Parish down there, reported by a National Weather Service employee. That was at 1:45 this afternoon from a storm there. That was today, this afternoon, 1:45 Central Time. Unknown scale or size of the tornado. It was in the Cameron Prairie National Wildlife Refuge. Reported by a National Weather Service employee there. So that is the area of concern. That area of concern starts tomorrow. For now, I am meteorologist Hutch Johnson. It is a pleasure to have you joining me for this broadcast. If you have questions, let me know. I appreciate all of you who have signed on and let me know just a little bit about you or your questions. Thank you so very much, Jay, for your update, and Deborah for joining, Nancy as well. I appreciate all of you. You have a wonderful evening. I'll be back here after a bit if necessary. The storm risk and the threat will wane as we get towards sunset. So for the next couple of hours, we have that severe thunderstorm watch in effect for many of you in the Plains states, all the way from southern Colorado into areas of North Dakota tonight. And I'll put the warnings back up. Again, the severe thunderstorm watch in these areas is in effect until we get to the 9 o'clock Mountain Daylight time frame. So 9 o'clock tonight. After that, the risk of severe weather goes down. We're approaching 6:45 Central Time. So that's 5:45. So we still have a concern for severe weather to work its way slowly into the central part of North Dakota. Should stop shy of the Bismarck area, should stop shy of the Minot area with regards to the greatest risk of severe weather going through. That's a look at your weather. I am meteorologist Hutch Johnson. Thanks for liking. Love to have you subscribe by hitting the subscribe button below.